ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया अक्षरं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे नित्यानन्द नमस्तुभ्यं प्रेमानन्दप्रदायिने कलौ कल्मषनाशाय जानवापतये नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरतुसे नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So we welcome everyone for today's discussion on Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So we are discussing from chapter 3, text 1. In this verse, yesterday we discussed, Arjuna is asking question. Arjuna Vacha, Jayasi Chet Karmanasте Mata Buddhir Tatkim Karmani Ghore Mam Niyojayasi Keshava. Arjuna said, O Janardhan, O Keshav, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence is better than fruity work? O Keshav, if you think that to act on the level of intelligence is better better than performing fruity work, so why should you inspire me to fight? So first of all, let us understand what does this fruity work means. Fruity work means to perform certain kind of activity with the desire to get the result. That is called fruity work. But the same work, if it is the same activity, if it is performed not with the desire for attaining the result, but as a matter of duty, in order to serve Krishna, then it is not fruity work. This is what is missing in Arjuna's understanding. So Arjuna, right now, he thinks uh, that after fighting this battlefield, the acquirement of kingdom, that is the result, fruit. So he thinks that I'm inspired, Krishna is inspiring me to fight this battlefield for the sake of becoming victorious, to get the kingdom which originally belonged to us. So Krishna wants us to have this kingdom with this fruit. But Krishna only explained in the previous verse, Kripana Phala Hetava. This was the verse Lord Krishna explained, Kripana Phala Hetava. Bhagavad Gita, अरे कृपणा है, कृपणा कृपणा 9.26, कृपणा फलयितवा, कृपणा फलयितवा. Bhagavad Gita chapter 2. Yes, text कर्म फल 2.46 के बाद भी 2.47 कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफल हेतुर्भूत मा ते संगोऽस्ति अकर्मणि. Then Krishna says, योगस्थः कुरु कर्माणि संगम त्यक्त्वा धनंजय. हाँ, दूरेण ही अवरम कर्म बुद्धि योगा धनंजय. दूरेण ही अवरम कर्म बुद्धि योगा. Hare Krishna. So, Lord Krishna told this in text 49 of second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Durena hi avaram karma. Avaram karma we discussed yesterday, abominable action. that you should uh, remain far distant from avaram karma, abominable action, using your intelligence, buddhi yoga dhananjaya. And buddha saranamanvicha kripana phala hetava. Kripana means those who are miser, they act for the purpose of getting some result, desiring fruitive result. One, a kripana, one who is miser, he acts. But those who are intelligent, they remain far away from such abominable activity using intelligence. So, from this verse, Arjuna understood like this that this battlefield is avaram karma, abominable action, because so much killing is going on, so much killing will happen. So, this is abominable action. And why should I become Kripana? Kripana means miser, who is attached to the result. So, instead of acquiring some facility for sense gratification, for which I have to perform this abominable activity, let me uh, remain aloof from such abominable activity using Buddhi Yoga. Buddhi Yoga. So this is what Arjuna understood from second chapter Bhagavad Gita. And finally, when but Krishna was told immediately, Buddhi Yukto Jahatiha Ubhe Sukrite Duskrite, become free from all this desire for acquiring Sukrita, means pious results, and avoiding Duskrita. Tasmat Yoga Yujjasa, Yoga Karmasu, also. I mean, this way you situate yourself in yoga. But later on, Krishna, Phalam Tektva Manishna, he spoke like this, so many verses, but Arjuna couldn't really understand the actual meaning. Uh, and instead, when Krishna finally requested Arjuna, instructed that get up and fight, Tashmadesya Mahabaho Nigrahitani Yuddhasva, Yuddhasva Vigata Jora. Krishna says like this, Yuddhasva Vigat, Vigat is Praha, Vigat is Praha, Vigata Jora. It's somewhere, Tasmad, Tasmad, Tasmat Yuddhasva Bharat. Yes. So, so Arjuna, Krishna told in one of the verse that Tasmad Yuddhasva Bharata, get up and fight. Therefore, fight to descendant of Bharata. And at the same time, Krishna told that you should not perform abominable action, become situated in transcendental knowledge, transcendental intelligence, and remain. So in this way, Arjuna could not understand. He thought this fighting in this battlefield is footy work, meant for enjoying the result of this fight to gain the kingdom. So why should you engage me in such warfare? So the Supreme Personality of God, Sri Krishna, has very elaborately described the constitution of the soul in the previous chapter with a view to delivering his intimate friend Arjuna from the ocean of material grief. So Lord Krishna very elaborately described about the constitution of the soul in the last chapters, so that Arjuna may become free from unnecessary lamentation, which was becoming great obstacle for execution of his prescribed duties. So, and the path of realization has been recommended, Buddhi Yoga, Krishna consciousness. So, Krishna recommended that using Buddhi Yoga or Krishna consciousness, you free yourself from your material attachment and become free from this ocean of material grief, lamentation. But sometimes Krishna consciousness is misunderstood to be inertia. And one with such a misunderstanding often withdraws to a secluded place to become fully Krishna conscious by chanting the holy name of Lord Krishna. But without being trained in the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, it is not advisable to chant the holy name of Krishna in a secluded place where one may acquire only cheap adoration from the innocent public. So this is often seen in means neophyte devotees, Kanishtadhikari devotees, or third class devotees, that they think that the ultimate purpose of life is to uh, to attain Krishna. And the best means is chanting of Hare Krishna. So let me leave everything and just chant Hare Krishna. But actually, this works. It's not that. Don't think when Prabhupada they are writing that it is not advisable to chant the holy name of Krishna in a secluded place. So it's not that. Uh, it is not a bona fide method. But the point is, we should understand very nicely. Yeah? Sometimes devotees who read such purport, they think that one should not chant more than 16 rounds. One who chants 64 rounds, 108 rounds, he is going against Prabhupada's person, Prabhupada's mood. No, this is not is the meaning what Prabhupada is telling here. The meaning is very clear. Until unless one is formally is trained in philosophy of Krishna consciousness, until unless one very nicely understands what does Krishna consciousness means. So his so-called chanting will not be that much effective. Rather, it will be because mind is very powerful. Maya is very powerful. Maya, in the name of chanting, such a devotee will actually simply be engaged in sense gratification. Lord Krishna also says, Mithyachari, a person who becomes a show bottle meditator, you know, and inside his mind, he is thinking about sense gratification. Such a person is actually mithyachari, a pretender. So it's better to engage in devotional service to Krishna in the association of devotees. And in the association of devotees, one must thoroughly understand what does actually it means to be Krishna conscious. When one understands it thoroughly, then he will be able to give up completely all material attachments, and then his chanting will be very effective. So very often, people think this Krishna consciousness means to give up everything, all physical activities, all association, material, spiritual, all the association, and simply go somewhere in secluded place and meditate upon God. But that is not possible, my dear Prabhu, because you may think that I will give up all the association and live alone in secluded place in the forest or in dham and chant Hare Krishna nicely. But how will you how will you be able to give up the association of this rascal mind? Wherever you will go, your rascal mind is going to come with you always. And this within this contaminated mind, there are unlimited desires for material sense enjoyment, sense gratification. So until unless one uh, very nicely associates with a bona fide spiritual master and associates with nice devotees, and from them hears nicely the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, and in order to understand the tricky nature of mind and to understand the real philosophy, and takes help and guidance from senior devotees to become free from material attachments, it is not going to possible for such a person to independently chant Hare Krishna and remain focused in Krishna alone. Uh, so any person who gives up the association of devotees and without understanding the proper philosophy of Krishna consciousness, if he makes a show of chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, he is actually not chanting. Uh, so we should always understand that constant chanting of the holy name of Krishna is not condemned. It's not that it's not recommended. One must come to the platform of constantly chanting the holy name of Krishna, but actually chanting the holy name of Krishna must be there. It's not that uh, only from lips he is chanting Hare Krishna, just for the sake of acquiring some cheap adoration. And internally, he is planning how to enjoy sense gratification uh, in various ways. Because there are many so-called show bottle devotees, in specifically in Dham, Vrindavan Dham, you may go. You'll find so many independent devotees. They live and they make a show of chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra throughout the day and night. But privately, maintaining their desires for sense gratification, and some of them even, and most of them, eventually, after some period of time, they give up their chanting and they engage in activities of sense gratification, sometimes so much so that they engage in most abominable kind of sense gratification, most abominable kind of sinful activity, sudurachar. Sudurachar means most abominable. And of all kinds of sinful activity and of all kinds of abominable activities, the most abominable activity, sinful activity, is to have illicit sex. It is the most dangerous. So any devotee or any transcendental spiritualist who cannot give up illicit sex life, he cannot progress in his spiritual life. It's not possible. What to speak of illicit sex? In order to advance in spiritual life, in Krishna consciousness, one must gradually give up complete sex life. This is the injunction. The regulated sense gratification and regulated sex life is recommended for persons who may not, if they may not progress in spiritual life, at least they may not degrade themselves to animal kingdom of life. Just to remain a human being, one has to strictly follow this rule: no illicit sex, and not only no illicit sex, all the rules. These four regulative principles, if somebody follows very strictly, then he remains a human being. He will take birth as a human being. But if somebody wants to transcend the material modes of nature, then he must become free from all kinds of sense gratification, especially this illicit sexual activity. One has to become. That's why in Vedic culture, is four out of four varna, brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyas. In three ashram, there is absolutely no sex life. Only in one ashram, grihastha ashram, some license has been given for this enjoyment, and not for the sake of enjoyment. That too, this license has been given in order to produce nice children. So it must not be misutilized for the purpose of acquiring cheap sense gratification. Then one's spiritual life is completely means doomed, because the more one engages in sense gratification, the more one's bhav or attitude of that I am doer, I am karta, the false ego, it increases. The more a person practices austerity of controlling his mind and senses, the more he becomes freed from this misconception that I am this body. False ego. False ego means that I am this body. So the more one engages in the activities of sense gratification, and especially the most abominable, or you can say most intense, most deep or intense kind of sense gratification is this sex life. So a person who continues this even in a regulated manner, even in a legal way, whether it is licit or illicit, legal or illegal, it doesn't matter, because it affects the consciousness, and the person who engages in this, he becomes more and more convinced that I am this body, I am the enjoyer, I am the controller, and I can enjoy, I am the doer. This mentality increases. What is the reason why most of the population today they are becoming atheist? Why they are losing their tolerance, their determination, and and going against the Sastric injunction? One of the main reason is that they are performing sinful activities. The more performing sense gratification, the more one performs sense gratification, the more he becomes convinced that I'm not this, I am this body. Then this idea, this knowledge that I'm not this body and spirit soul cannot enter into the head of such a person. And he cannot practice tapasya, austerity, in order to become free from bodily concept of life, which is the very basis of foundation of spiritual life. So in this way, one should not disassociate oneself from association of devotees and practice his so-called spiritual life. That will not help him. Rather, one should come in the association of devotees, nicely get trained in philosophy of Krishna consciousness, and under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, one should engage in practical devotional service as well, along with chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra and the hearing of the philosophy. Because chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra and the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, it's like a diet which is must for our spiritual nourishment. But in the association of devotees engaging in practical services like preaching activities, book distribution, and other practical services, it's like digesting the diet, the proper diet. You may take the proper diet, but if you have a low appetite and your digestion is not strong enough to digest it, then you'll not get the nourishment. Just like there are many people like myself, uh, I doctor recommended me to drink 3-4 times ghee, ghee along with hot water, so that there will be proper nourishment and energy. But still, I don't know how it is working. It's working somewhat, little bit, but because the digestion is poor, so most of the part is just thrown away. So what is the use? There are people. They just drink water and they become very healthy and fatty. So for them, for such a person whose fire of digestion is very strong, even if they drink water, their fire absorbs all the minerals from the water and they become very healthy. And for a person who has weak digestive fire like me, even if he drinks ghee, very nourishing, still it acts like water. And similarly, this attitude of service is required. The more The more we chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the more we hear and read Bhagavatam and chant, it is like proper, very nourishing diet. But if it is not digested by the fire of attitude, service attitude, then one cannot get the proper uh, means nourishment from it. Of course, it will work just like even if somebody has very weak digestive fire, but he eats a lot of very healthy food. Still, even if the stomach absorbs 5 to 10%, that is much better, much more. Even if 1%, 2%, still he'll get the benefit. But in comparison to the person who has very nice, strong digestive fire, who can absorb 50%, 60%, 80% of the nutrition from what he eats, then it is very wonderful. Similarly, the more we chant, the more we hear and read about Krishna. So that is very wonderful. But along with this, if we just can develop this service attitude, and the service attitude is developed in the association of devotees when we come in the guidance of superior Vaishnavas, spiritual masters, and when we serve them practically, then this attitude of service is developed. And when a devotee who chants the holy name of Krishna with this attitude of service, then his sadhana is properly uh, nourished, sadhana is properly digested. I mean to say, the sadhana properly nourishes the spirit soul, and the spirit soul practically bathes in nectarian water of Krishna consciousness, and it is so wonderful and blissful. And there's no possibility of such a person to get entangled into Maya. Uh, so, this is what we learn in this lesson. That's why Arjuna is being recommended here by Krishna that you must also engage in practical service. This is your practical service. Being a Kshatriya, a warrior, you are duty bound to fight. And as a matter of service, maintaining this service attitude, you fight. So Arjuna also thought of Krishna consciousness or buddhi or intelligence in the spiritual advancement of knowledge as something like retirement from active life and the practice of penance and austerity at a secluded place. In other words, he wanted to skillfully avoid the fighting by using Krishna consciousness as an excuse. Sometimes it happens. Some devotee in as a matter using Krishna consciousness or using chanting of Hare Krishna as an excuse, they want to avoid the emergency services also, required services. Just like preaching of Krishna consciousness movement is emergency. It's a great urgent business. It's very much required service. One cannot neglect this. One has to do this because the great chanter of the holy name of Krishna, Srila Ramachar Haridas Thakur, he was great preacher also. So have we become more advanced than Ramachar Haridas Thakur? That we will only chant Hare Krishna. We should also preach. So preaching can be done in various ways. It's not required that one has to just only deliver lectures or one uh, has to just become very means well versed in scriptures or of course one has to become very well versed in scriptures, but preaching doesn't require that one has to memorize all the slokas, many verses he must know in order to preach. No, it's not required. Preaching means we can just speak whatever we know about Krishna. And even if somebody is hesitant to speak about Krishna in public, so he can also contribute his efforts in preaching by assisting somebody who is preaching. Just like this follow-up services, this is very important, and one can engage in book distribution activity. One can live in the association of devotees and nicely participate in other services in the temple, which supports preaching, just like deity worship. Deity worship, decorating the deities very nicely, it attracts people and attracts them. Their attention is attracted towards the Supreme Lord, and in this way they become attached to the Supreme Lord. So that is also a very tangible effort in preaching and cooking nicely. So very sad. So, in other words, we can say anybody who is engaged some or other in some form or other in some kind of practical services also in ISKCON along with their intense sadhana. So they are considered to be best spiritualist. So Arjuna, he wanted to skillfully avoid the fighting by using Krishna consciousness as an excuse, but as a sincere student, he placed the matter before his master and questioned Krishna as to his best course of action. So that is sincerity in the part of Arjuna. Sometimes we may also get doubt that this is better. But if we are really sincere, we will approach our counselor or spiritual master or any senior devotee and will discuss that this is what I am thinking. So please guide me. Is it proper? Then the senior devotee may correct us. No, Baba, you are going in wrong direction. What you are thinking to be Krishna consciousness, actually it is going to entangle you into Maya. So better remain uh, in safe distance. Don't do like this. So in answer, Lord Krishna elaborately explained karma yoga or working Krishna consciousness in this third chapter. So Krishna is going to explain this very wonderfully, this philosophy. This chapter is very beautiful. How to practice Krishna consciousness in a practical manner so that we can develop proper attitude and go ahead in our spiritual life nicely. Thank you very much. We'll end here. Hare Krishna. Do you have any questions to ask? How many of you heard today's discussion very attentively and understood everything? Yes.